Good morning, everyone. It's November the 20th, 2004. As you can see, I put a video prior to this one on the rally that I attended on the weekend, and I was debating should I put the rally video up first or the explanation after, and I chose to do the explanation for the video today. And this was what I had talked about, where we're putting up a structure, and this fight with the people of Ottawa right now. We're divided about whether we put up these sprung structures for the refugees and the asylum seekers, and people are against it and people are for it. And I was talking the other day about the protests, and so our city councillor decided, some of the city councillors who were for this sent out word that there was going to be a rally held on those who were for it. So I attended that rally. So I wanted to give more details on what was going on. And I only got 30 minutes of it because my arms were getting extremely tired at 71. And I just had a flu shot in the arm the day before. And the phone was starting, by 30 minutes later, this phone was starting to feel extremely heavy. But the part of the video I really wanted you to hear the most was Mayor Sutcliffe, his story and what he had to say. And I think it's important for everyone to hear this today. So I'm going to start today telling you briefly about what was said on the CTV local news just prior to the rally, the day of the rally. And these particular structures are called sprung structures, SPRUNG structures, for asylum seekers and refugees. And the idea, now, our council has been looking at all different ways of getting definitely affordable, since affordable housing is such a problem too, is how can we house people? And this was one thing that they were looking for, and this idea of sprung structures came in from California. And this is what they're using in California. It'll apparently house 150 people. They're planning on 2 sites each. Right now, we're fighting over the one site that's going up. And so it's apparently 3,000 square feet. They're hoping to house them for just for 90 days, and they're hoping to get anywhere from 600 to 1,200 asylum or refugees through a year, hopefully, as we're building the affordable housing. And this is supposed to be opening hopefully by November of 2025, a year from now. So that's a little bit long, a little bit rough, but it's better than some of the things that I'm seeing right now. For affordable housing, because I just want to tell you, it's interesting because there's an affordable housing building going up near where I live. I've been watching it going up. For us, I don't know how it works in other countries or wherever. We always get a notice that this house or something's going to be built in the area, and if you object to it, you can call city council or somewhere in the city and complain about it. And we have all these things where we can go and talk about it and stuff like that. And they were and these people say, well, they weren't told about it, they didn't know about it, or they'll say would have attended the meetings that were about it. So I don't know what happened there on the communication, but the one I saw going up, this was just probably about a year and a half prior to the pandemic that we got the notices in our mailbox about this structure going up for affordable housing. And of course, we ended up, at that time, we had all the consultations and everything going forward just before the pandemic. And then, of course, the pandemic arrived, and that kind of delayed things right there. And then towards the end of the pandemic, we started seeing them, because to build a foundation, we're on solid rock, so they have to blast out the rock and that to put it in a foundation for it. So that was probably about 2022, just at the end of the pandemic coming in. And we're now in 2024, going on into 2025. So it took them quite a while. It wasn't until last year, after they blasted it out, that would be 2023, that they started putting the steel structure up. So I was watching the steel structure go up for the building. And so after that, now over the winter, they were trying to do more. They were trying to put the rest of the structure together, but they also let it sit for a bit because I presume they couldn't get work crews at that time to do it. So then when the work crews in, they were working, say in February this year, they were trying to put more of the site, whatever they put for the first part of the skin up on the building. And they were trying to up to the top of the building, so they had to get the elevator shaft and everything like that. So they were trying to work on that. So it took all spring and summer up until about 2 weeks ago before they finally got the last layer built for the outside of the building. Then, except for just where they had to put the elevator in so they could bring the materials in to build the inside. So they've been working on the inside as well. Now it's not completed yet, and we're now in 2025, the end of 2025, and so now they're inside buildings. So I don't see this completely finished till either early spring or even maybe late spring. And if we're really lucky, maybe the end of winter before they get the full inside. But when you look at that time period from when it started, and about probably about the middle of 2018 when the notices came out, to now, that's a long time. Whereas this structure, what they're saying, is can be built easily in 12 months. So this is why they went with that. So then I wanted to talk about what our mayor had to say there. And this goes back to the Vietnam refugees coming in after South Vietnam fell and the American troops left Vietnam to its demise, if you want to call it that way. And so what is interesting about it is that our former mayor, as Mayor Sutcliffe is talking about, Marion Dewar, I was very much alive at the time. I was a teenager. And I remember Marion Dewar said, yep, we're bringing in 4,000 refugees. Our city will look after these refugees. We'll do it. And we did it because it was then our city at that time, and back then we were literally maybe about 145,000 in the city, to maybe, if we were lucky, 160,000. We were a very small city, and that was long before amalgamation in 2000. We're now where we brought in all the outside areas, and now we're well over 1 million people. So you figure we were a small city back then. But the wards got together, the neighbors got together, and we all supported these people when they came in. They got settled. They really helped boost up our economy. They worked hard. They were good neighbors. They never caused us trouble. They just tried to do everything they could to be good people and contribute to our city, which they have over the years. And so that was a really good experience. So I thought, being my age, definitely being that person as a living time capsule, I wanted to bring that back. And I also wanted to remind, like the mayor has reminded people, that Canada's built on immigration. And the United States is also built on immigration. So you go figure what's going to happen if they decide to get rid of all the immigrants and whoever from the States. So I'll just say that much. But it was very successful. So we always have welcomed in refugees. So we had a system after that was set up specifically to help refugees. And this has worked well up until now. Now we've got this problem where we have one ward against another because, as what I didn't get on film from the counselor for that ward, where this sprung structure is going to be, his ward is all for it. And it's, ironically, this ward is separated by a road. Just a simple road. One side, the counselor, or people from the ward are all for it. And on the other side of the road is another ward. And they're the ones that are fighting against the sprung structure. So this is where the battle comes in. And then you'll see, with the mayor behind him, you'll see our councils, part of our city council, that agrees with this as well. So, it's like battlegrounds are being divided right across the line, and we were never divided like that when Marion Dewar was our mayor. It was, we help people out. This is what we're all about. We help humanity. We're all human. We all need a place to live. And then you get people, well, you know, we need a place for homeless. Yeah, we all agree on that, but we can't agree on where we put people? Oh boy, that's where there's a real big problem right now. And then I also wanted to tell you a little story about these Vietnamese refugees. And I know I've told you in previous videos that I landed 6 weeks in the hospital last year and ended up with sepsis because of an infection that I got from a homeless person. That's a long story in itself. But while I was in the hospital, and we had 2 beds in our room, I had this senior lady. She came in. She was in her late 80s, and she had dementia. And surprisingly enough, she was one of these Vietnamese refugees that came in the 60s. And I want to tell you a little bit about her story, which was kind of interesting. Because if you know with dementia, you can only remember past years, and you can't remember what you did even 5 minutes prior to what you did, for those who know dementia. But in those times, when she was coherent enough that I could understand her, she started talking about being a Vietnam refugee. So, because she was in that time period, I had been there, and I was thankful that I'd seen what had happened in the city. She was talking about how grateful she was that she was taken in. I understood she got well educated. I think she was in the education system. I think she might have said she was a professor or high in the education, and she had a lot to do with the education. And she spoke really, really, really well English as well. And she said, well, yeah, I was one of those boat people. And so I asked a simple question. Well, my gosh, how did you get in a boat and come across the ocean and end up here? And the thing that struck me was so interesting was when I saw the films of the, well, of course, they're back in black and white in those days, but I saw the American troops as they were leaving some of the compounds and stuff. They were able to grab a few of the refugees and pull them into some of the planes that they had and brought them back to America. But she said in her case, when they got to the boats, the North Vietnamese were right behind them, and they were scrambling, whoever could get into the boats to at least try and get across an ocean to safety. And she said when they looked up, there was 3 or 4 American planes retreating with soldiers in them, saw them on the beaches trying to get into the boats, and they decided to risk their lives, and they turned the planes around, and apparently it gave enough firepower for them to get into the boats away from the North Vietnamese. And then of course they turned the planes back and they fled right back to the United States. And I believe they probably radioed ahead to tell the world, basically, or definitely because they were American, probably the American people right away, that there was people fleeing in boats. If any people could get them on the sea, if they could get boats to get these refugees pulled in right away, get them. So that's what I kind of understood as how she ended up being rescued. I don't know if it's American, Canadian, or what boat rescued her from what country, but they managed to get some boats to get these people to be able to flee the country. So it was a very interesting conversation with her, and it was just unfortunate that she is now dementia. This well-educated woman has dementia, and where she contributed. And it was just kind of nice to see how grateful she was. And she said, oh, I was so grateful to coming to Canada. You know, I had a whole life, and and I tried to give back what I could to the country. So grateful that our country took them in. So I just wanted to give that really good feeling story about that. And so I wanted to go on and talk about how we are, both Canada and United States, are based on immigration. And this fight that we have between ourselves is totally ridiculous. And it's hard not to make it a long video, and I just wanted you to see that. And ironically, it was the counselor that I didn't get who put on it. Was his word was all for it, and the other side was not for it. So how this is going to go, I have no idea yet. But there was a good turnout for that rally, and I'm thankful for that. And there was a lot of good people And one of the interesting things is I found out, I got talking afterwards, after the rally, I got talking to this woman. She had been a former teacher here in the schools, and she was telling me the different things on gathering clothing and stuff when these refugee children came in from Vietnam. On her point of view was that they gathered up clothing. And today we have Matthew House, for an example, clothing is gathered for the refugees coming in. Furniture is definitely gathered for refugees when they can get a place. So she's helping out these places. So she was there at the rally because she understands as well the contribution and the importance of education and helping these young children who spoke Vietnamese how they could speak English. So she was very involved in that sort of thing. So here's another good story about helping people out. But I also, after the rally was over, I was able to pick up, and I think it's very important that I read this, and information. Information is the most important thing. And this is coming off. It's newcomer, and they're called newcomer reception centers. Okay, this is what they're called. This is the paper that I'm reading it off of. So that's what these new sprung structures are called, newcomer reception centers. And what are the commonly, frequently asked questions? So I'm going to read this to you. What are the newcomer reception centers? The newcomer reception centers are planned to be the first points of contact for refugee claimants arriving in Ottawa. With semi-private rooms with meals and social services on site, the center will offer dignified temporary lodging for claimants and other unhoused newcomers. It will be staffed with experts and guide refugee claimants through the initial steps of starting life in Canada, which means obviously they're going to have everything from Service Canada, Service Ontario. They're going to have everything that they need right there in one site, which is pointed very much out in the rally, was that our shelters are no place for the refugees because they have none of these support services available to them. So they need something totally separated, and not in with the homeless and the drugs and the crisis that we're in right now. And because the shelters we have are literally not equipped for this thing. So these poor refugees are coming in with the street people, the drugs and everything else, and we don't want them on the drugs and everything else either. So they have to be separated. And it was like what I was talking about too in my early videos. The mental health people who have the mental health problems, who need extra supports. They need to be housed in separate buildings away from the drug addicts even. So there's a lot of things that need to be done here, and we can't do it all at once. That's for sure. But this is a solid way of definitely getting the refugees out of there, because as the mission said, they're swamped. They have absolutely no place to put anybody. They're overflowing. There's no beds left. There's sleeping people in the chapel on the floor. There's sleeping people on the floor in the reception area and on chairs. So this is no good either. So, and the second thing about this, how will these centers benefit our community? The newcomer reception centers will relieve the strain on local shelters and return recreation facilities to community use, which there's another problem. They're taking up our recreation community centers. They're sleeping there. That's where they're putting the overflow. And by offering specialized support to newcomers in designated centers, we can better serve all residents. The funds for these centers are earmarked for newcomer support and will not, I'll repeat that, will not take funding away from any other Ottawa resident. And that's another thing. People are afraid that they're using our tax dollars, which apparently they're not. Why? And that's probably some coming from the federal government, I presume, and possibly as well with the provincial government kicking in some money as well. Why should we support newcomers? Newcomers are eager to contribute and most bring valuable skills and education. Many are ready to work and just need assistance with the transition to Canada. Supporting them today lays the foundation for their long-term contributions as neighbors and community members. That's exactly what I was talking about. And that older woman, as I met, she couldn't have been more grateful. And she contributed back all her life to our country. And here she is in dementia. And it just seems so unfair. And then it's how many centers are planned in Ottawa. The first center is planned for 1645 Woodruff Avenue, next to the Nepean Sportsplex. A secondary site at 40 Hearst Way, part of the Eagleson Park and Ride, may also be developed as required. So they're putting up one first, and then they have the other one planned if they feel that they need it. And another question asked here: why does Ottawa need a newcomer reception center? Approximately 300 people, primary newcomers, are currently sleeping on cots and bunk beds in Ottawa community centers. The reception center plan is designated to ease a burden on the city's shelter system and return emergency spaces to broader community use while ensuring that newcomers can get the information and support they need, which makes total sense, as I said. Our drug and epidemic here, they have specialized services that they can't even get, and we've got all these other people piling in right now, which need specialized services, so they really need to separate the two. So this is a great idea. What materials will be used to build the centers? The city intends to use sprung structures, a tensile membrane structure that provides dignified accommodation while allowing for future flexibility. These are not tents. They are semi-permanent structures that the city has affirmed will have heating, plumbing, electricity, and interior walls. The city says it has chosen sprung structures as the fastest, most efficient, and cost-effective way to meet the urgent need. And then it goes on. Another question: how will these centers support newcomers? The centers are part of a larger plan the city has developed to provide wraparound services, employment assistance, translation, case management, trauma support, which trauma support's, I have to admit, is a real big one. We can't even get the trauma support that we need. So at least there's going to be extra trauma support in them, because they are traumatized, a lot of the people who do come in. Referrals to other services, along with a place to sleep and regular meals. This support will help newcomers get established in Ottawa faster, including finding work and permanent housing of their own. How? This is another one. How do newcomers contribute to our local economy? Newcomers bring diverse skills and talents by providing initial support at the reception centers. The city enables newcomers to transition quickly into the workforce, adding value to Ottawa's economy and supporting local businesses. And you will hear how much that it has contributed from our mayor. And the one I didn't get on was another woman that 50% of Ottawa by 2050 will be supported by immigration. So I think we're about 30 to 35% right now, but they figure it's going to be a good 50, maybe a little over percent by 2050 from what her statistics were showing. And the other thing is, how can you help? Share accurate information in your networks. Post a digital version of this FAQ on your social media or send to friends via email. Be a welcoming neighbor. Get to know newcomers in your neighborhood. Help them navigate the city. Share advice and information. Express your views. Email your MP and your MPP and let them know you support efforts to house newcomers. Volunteer with local organizations serving newcomers. And then they have an email on it. And I'll try and do this. I'm not that good. But for the, whatever it is, for the email, I guess it's called. Yeah, the email. It's info, and then you have that A with the funny tail around it. Refugee 613.ca, and we'll send you a list to get you started. And then the other thing that you can help to do is donate to local organizations serving newcomers. Visit www.refugee613.ca and click on donate for more information. Now, I know that this is a KUR scan. I've never used it, and like I said, I'm a little bit stumped on the technology, but I'm going to put it close to the screen. I know I've seen this on TV. I don't know if you can, whoops, I'm just trying to get this centered here as best I can. I think that's got it. So I don't know if you can scan that, people, and get on it, but I will post it anyhow to let you know what that's all about. So I know it's getting long today, and again, I thank you for listening to me. because we're living in a very crazy world right now, and fighting against one another is not the way to go at all. We have to come to terms with this is our modern society that we're living in today, whether we like it or not. We all have our differences, but again, compromise, 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 and we have to learn to compromise and come together. So everyone, have a good day, take care, watch your surroundings, be safe, and we'll talk again soon, and bye-bye.